Okay, so first of all, I wish to thanks and to Sor Ellen and Fabio Ferrucci for inviting me to share some of the thoughts. I have no conflict of interest in saying what I'm going to say. And I hope I can move the slides. Okay. I'll just start saying that in the last 100 years, medicine has been seen as biomedicine and the art and science of something that was repairing. The progresses in antibiotic and in surgery were giving us an idea that biomedicine can really change the health of people by operating or by providing antibiotics. But we are now in a new era, an era in which we have the increased appearance of diseases that are completely different and are changing the global scenario. Biomedicine alone is not enough. Because for majority of diseases that are affecting world population, to say where is the disease is almost impossible. And to say what to cut or to add is also very difficult. So we are changing scenario, but also we are having another scenario that is called the epidemiological transition. We are moving from a scenario, global scenario, in which diseases are less acute and more chronic, and we have a reduction in malnutrition communicable diseases towards a shift in non-communicable diseases, which gives us today a population in which 50% of the world lives with chronic disease, one or more, including hypertension, diabetes, and many others that are affecting mental and neurological, cardiovascular, and musculoskeletal, are affecting 50% of population. And then there is the other phenomenon that is the so-called age quake, meaning that if you are looking at the trends, we know that the proportion of population over age 60 that was in this manner in 2012, in 2050 is going to triple. And there are some countries that are going to have an increasing number of people over 60, meaning that, and if you look here, the different dots are different countries, and this is a UN study, whatever is the age in which you get old, there is a point in which your body is getting to have a lower functioning. And this is the same for male and females. So there is a decline in functioning. There's also a problem in definition worldwide. When we speak about people with disability, people with chronic condition, people with non-communicable diseases, old people, aging people, are we considering people functioning? So that is why globally, there's the need for this classification, that is the International Classification of Function, Disability and Health, which provides an accepted modular taxonomy to describe functioning and disability. And if you see in this model that is in front of you, you have the health condition, which is in fact one part of the scenario. But the other is that ICF classifies the disability and functioning of people in terms of body function and structures, activity, participation. And the other essential part describes it in the model considering environmental factors and also personal factors. This classification took around 20 years, and it was published in May 2001 and adopted with the resolution of the World Health Assembly, moving from the idea that WHO needed to classify this increasing number of diseases that do not disappear. It was approved, and from that moment, the world of disability changed very much globally. The ICF has been translated in more than 65 languages, and after 22 years, it has been creating an enormous debate at global level in terms of defining disability with a common language and also defining functioning at global level through the biopsychosocial model. What is this model? The model is the one model in which the health conditions are defined by the classification of disease, which is now at its 11th version, but the functioning is described by this classification that is called ICF. And together with ICI, the International Classification for Health Intervention, these are the classifications that WHO provides at global level and that the 197 countries of the UN ratify altogether. Disability in the ICF is understood as a continuum. You cannot say where people start to be disabled. If, for example, I would like to define that having a low vision is for me the start of disability, I would say that half of the people in this call are disabled because half of you is wearing glasses. So where's the line from which you end up to be normal and you start to be disabled in the ICF is not defined. So then you have different levels of disability, from low to high level of disability. Where governments define disability, that's a political decision, and there's nothing to do with the capturing of the idea of disability. Majority of world population has low and mild level of disability, and a severe part of population, a small part of population has severe disability. And disability is always understood, and that's the definition that I recommend we also use everywhere, is the interaction between health condition and environmental factors. Why this interaction is so crucial? Most of the diseases we are dealing with might not have several benefits. They not disappear. They stay for years. You can always do something to diminish disability acting at environmental level. There has been an evolution about the disability category. I think we had this magnificent historical background from a professor that just preceded me about Confucian theories, but in the only 100 years ago, the disabled includes sick, insane, defective, aged, and infirm. And it was in the English poor law. And then also we had the German invalidity pension. Disabled person is someone who, because of his physical or mental condition, is neither in a position to perform regularly his work, not to earn the minimum invalidity pension. And in the 20th century, the medical determination of disability was, in a sense, completely correlated to impairment. And in the last 30 years, in the census of 1981, disability refers to the physical or organic handicap of a person due to natural deformity or deficient functioning of any limb resulting from accident or disease. It includes blind, deaf, and dumb, crippled, mentally retarded. So the evolution of disability category found its sort of a coherence at global level in the UN Convention on the Right of People with Disability, which came out in 2006, which has been already mentioned by Rodrigo, in which persons with disability are those who have long-term physical, mental, intellectual impairments in interaction with barriers. And this definition of the UN Convention was based on the ICF classification definition of disability, which in the context of health, disability is an umbrella term for impairment, activity limitation, and participation restriction. And it denotes the negative aspect of the interaction between the individual with the health condition and the environment. Similarly, if you look at the evolution of the health category, in the 19th century, health was considered the absence of death or disease. In the 20th century, it was mostly driven by the WHO definition of health as a state of complete mental and social being, not just the absence of disease. And then in the 21st century, also health is operationalized with ICF, which is classifying health and health-related categories. So at the beginning of this century, I would say health and disability categories have different origins, different stories, but they have an evolution that goes at the end to become a common evolution. So ICF brought the two lines in consilience. So ICF is a classification which hierarchically lists categories that classify the universe of human functioning. They are mutually exclusive, and it has the conceptual model for understanding health and disability. It provides a common language, is done with alphanumeric codes. I can read the functional profile of a Chinese. We did this experiment while I was here in China, because it has alphanumeric codes that remain the same in all the languages. Then the translation of these alphanumeric codes changes, but the alphanumeric codes remain the same all over the world. And it can be used for statistic research and clinics, but also for policy development, which is also usually why and how I use it. The ICF conceptual model, it says that functioning is not only about what the person cannot do, but also what the person can do. And I think this is where we should start thinking, and we're not used to. And the despite theory developed by an Italian philosopher, Adriano Pessina, is based exactly on this concept. Despite what you cannot do, we have to look at you with your integrity for the things you can do. So it's important to define a profile of disability and function, not only because it's important to treat, of course, the impairment, but also because it's necessary to address people's needs in relation to their lived experience in their own context. A biopsychosocial profile of functioning is the best indicator of treatment needs and service outcomes. We are now in what it is called the human functioning revolution and the functioning science development. It's a recent paper that there is a global think tank on this, which I belong, that has been developing the new theory for which, beside mortality, natality, and morbidity, we need to introduce into our societies that are so epidemiologically different from as they were before, the concept of functioning. Functioning that is, in fact, strongly presenting the interaction with the environment. It's a rethinking of health, it's a new understanding and conceptualization of health with a wide range of consequences, because function is not simply an outcome of health. By capturing the lived experience of health of everybody, it is conceptually intrinsic to health and accounts for the value of health both for individuals and society. Speaking about functioning, you integrate the biological health, which is what usually the country people tend to think disability is, just merely diagnosis and impairment. But the integration of biological health and lived health, what it is the real performance of this person with this health condition in the environment in which he or she lives, that's the functioning theory. It is also important to value health in relation to the individual well-being, as well as in relation to societal welfare. Thus, it allows to operationalize sustainable development goal number 3, that one that says that health is a public good. And then implementing functioning, as it is conceptualized in the ICF, could benefit the practice, research, education, and policy across health systems and help integrate health and social systems. These biopsychosocial determinants that are part of the interaction between health and the environmental factors are essential. Environmental factors are defined by the ICF as barriers or facilitators. Sometimes you cannot do anything for a specific diagnosis, but you can always act on the elements of environment that are barriers that you should eliminate. This is where I really see the role of the PAS, if I can say, because people with disability all over the world face barriers in all areas of life: education, employment, social and political life, community participation, and health. Two people with the same diagnosis in two different environments have a completely different level of disability. And the disability that is determined by the environment can be changed, because disabling barriers, and we have a widespread evidence, are creating inadequate policies and standards, negative attitudes and discrimination, lack of provision of services, problems with service delivery, inadequate funding, lack of accessibility, and lack of consultation and involvement of people with disability. Thus, all barriers have negative consequences, and the consequences of barriers for people with disability is a lower educational achievement, lower levels of employment, higher rates of poverty, and poorer health outcomes. So thinking to the environmental barriers is where people and governments and actions can be taken, not only to reduce the level of inequalities, but also to reduce really the level of disability as intended with the biopsychosocial model. In this frame, I will say that the UN Convention, which has been ratified by the UN with the agreement now of more than 193 countries, says that the understanding of disability is a human right priority and a development priority. It should become the frame for policy development for all policies and stakeholders. My objection to this, that is warmly supported by all the disability community, as well as by all those who have been working for having this convention of the rights of people with disability, is that people will never have denied their right to work. I have never met a politician in my career that tells people that they don't have the right to work. But the point is that people don't want the right to work, they want a job. And this operationalization of the rights, it is what can diminish disability worldwide. The Convention of the Rights of People with Disability, in fact, says that people with disability have to be able to participate in society on an equal basis with others. Thus, this is where I see the action of PAS, because countries are requested to identify barriers and to take actions to eliminate them, as well as to identify the needs and take action to meet them, so that the participation level of people with disability is comparable to the level of the general population of a country. To me, and I'm very much pleased to share this with you, this is the time for human functioning revolution, and I'm very pleased to share this revolution with all of you this night.